Thanks, Rachel. It's good to see so many people out this evening. This is actually the third event in our Solar Energy Information Night series. We started out in Aylmer. We had about 80 people there. Then we were off to Stouffville and had about 60, and I think this is our biggest one now. I'm not quite sure, but I think we're going to break 100. We'll be close. So this is very encouraging. I'm excited to see all the support there is for solar energy and caring for creation, though I do have this side of me that's a little skeptical. And I wonder if we could get 100 people out if we had an event about consuming less and doing just using less resources and caring for creation that way. I don't know. Maybe I'll try more of those soon too. We'll see how many people we get for that. So what's this solar information all about? We have a program called the Mennonite Initiative for Solar Energy, and its purpose is to develop and provide resources that can increase the capacity of your ability to live sustainably. And there's a number of ways we want to do that. We want to raise some energy consumption questions, so that's what I'm going to do for you here this evening. Some of the outcomes of our program, we have a guide for going solar. These are some basic questions that will help you as you want to get started. That's available on our website. We also have a newsletter that is available as well that includes more discussion around energy issues, but also available resources. And there's a clipboard going around that you can sign up for that. So make sure you don't leave before you've been able to sign that. We're also playing around with the idea of an online community. We haven't done this yet, but we know that people want to be able to share ideas. So if somebody's already on solar and they want to ask some questions, we want to be able to provide some means to do that. We wonder, is a Facebook group or a blog or something like that, maybe that'll work. If you have some ideas, feel free to let me know. We'll experiment with that a little bit, see where that goes. So that's what we're doing, but you might be wondering, well, why? Why is MCC encouraging you to adopt a technology? This is a little bit new for us. Typically, Mennonites have not always seen themselves to be on the cutting edge of technology. And given that a lot of technology is planned to be obsolete within the next 6 months, 3 months, that kind of thing, I think this is a good skepticism that we have that. It's a fair question. Why on earth would MCC encourage you to adopt a technology? Well, this isn't just any technology. This is a technology that is related to energy. It produces energy. And I would like to suggest that energy and examining how we power our lives is a very important part of Christian discipleship. How we use and generate energy is central to living lives that are in right relationship with God, with others, and with creation. So we're going to explore that a little bit. Energy is probably the resource within our world that is most taken for granted today. Most Christians, when they start to eat their meal, they'll bow their heads, say a word of thanks, because we've generated that sense of gratitude for this resource, for this sustenance. Yet you'd probably be labeled crazy if you bowed your head next to the gas pump to thank God for the gas going into your car, right? Or perhaps to say a little prayer every time you flick on the switch when you enter a room. Yet without energy, none of us would be here tonight. Most of us brought some sort of energy to get us to this building. Because of the pervasiveness of energy in our lives, I think it makes sense to spend a little time and think about its impact on our lives and on our neighbors, both here locally and globally. But this is a little bit of a challenge for us because we're pretty disconnected from energy sources. Very few of us have any idea where the electricity is coming from right now, powering these lights and these computers in front of us. Very few of us have any idea where the gas came that powered our cars to get us here. This might not seem like a big problem. After all, not all of us are gifted with engineering knowledge. I certainly am not one of those people. But because we're disconnected from our energy sources, a number of things happen. First and foremost, we become wasteful. I remember as a kid, I would leave the lights on in a room and go play in another room, and my parents would get pretty angry at me for doing that. And I was like, what's the big deal? Like, I didn't understand. I didn't pay for the bills, that's for sure. So I didn't understand why it mattered, because I didn't see where this energy was coming from. Even when we do pay those bills, our ease of using energy creates this idea that there's an infinite supply of energy. We don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to be there when we plug something into the wall. We now have a situation in Ontario, and certainly in most of the developing world, where it's assumed that energy demand will always increase and always supply our demands and wants. So we're quite accustomed to using as much as we want without really thinking about it twice. This is beginning to change as we think about climate change and those realities. We know that if we continue to use energy at over and over and continue increasing that, that this will have negative impacts on creation. Now, the simple solution is to use less energy. But this is proving to be incredibly difficult. Perhaps you've experienced this yourself. I have a bit of a theory of why this is so. See, we tend to look at energy and only the end result of it. So we know that by using fossil fuel energy, we create carbon dioxide emissions. These are leading to global warming. And even though we know this, it's difficult for us to wrap our heads around the idea that our little piece is contributing to something on a global scale. And so it's a little bit hard for us to understand, how does our little bit make a difference? Even as we understand these reports that yes, climate change is happening, and yes, it's affecting the poor and vulnerable in our world. Currently, many of MCC's partners within Africa are telling us in North America that they're seeing changing weather patterns. Knowledge of the land that we've experienced that they've experienced generation over generation, are no longer predictable. And so they're beginning to they don't really quite know how to adapt to these changing weather patterns. So it helps to know the end result, but we also need to understand the beginning result. A lot of people will say, does it really make sense to address climate change? The science, it's a little bit shaky, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But people who do that fail to recognize how energy, fossil fuel energy particularly, is impacting communities right now through its production. Our industrial civilization's approach to energy is often one to take control and power from local communities and ecosystems and centralize them into pools of wealth and energy reserves. So we know that there's always energy available because we extracted that energy and brought it into a place of reserve. Currently, MCC has a program called Mining Justice to highlight the negative impacts that Canadian mining has had all over the world. So a lot of people will put the Canadian flag on their backpack when they're traveling around. Well, you wouldn't dare do that in Latin America. They're not too fond of our Canadian mining companies. Be it coal mines in Colombia, hydroelectric dams in India, oil in Nigeria, even you could say the tar sands in Alberta. All of these communities are seeing their natural capital taken to benefit corporations and consumer markets in exchange for often very temporary and poor-paying jobs. Certainly they need these jobs, but they certainly could use the wealth to stay in the community as well. So here's the good news. A little bit heavy so far. But renewable energy, and what we're looking at tonight, solar energy, is an opportunity for us to reverse it. By its very nature, by being small-scale and dispersed, renewable energy is well suited to be within the hands and control of communities. So we are encouraging churches and communities to adopt solar energy, not because we want to be on the cutting edge of it, but because we see an opportunity to reduce carbon emissions, but also to empower communities to create and manage their own sources of energy. By doing this, two things can happen. We can prioritize our energy use, so we can use it on the things that are most important to our lives, and we can stop assuming that there's an indefinite amount of these things. The second advantage is that community power can ensure that the harmful effects of generating this power is minimized. If we know the communities and the ecosystems that are being used to create this energy, we're more likely to use them to generate the energy in a less wasteful and harmful way. So, to wrap this up, what would make a successful solar program for MCC? Certainly I would love to see all of you head downstairs after and put down a deposit for 100 solar systems. And I'm sure those solar vendors would also love to see that happen. But more concerned, for me personally, I'm more concerned about shifting our approach to energy. Building relationships that hold us accountable to a responsible energy use. How can the church encourage others to live simply and have a responsible use of resources? Perhaps the solar project is just part of a larger awareness of how energy impacts us and our lives. What kinds of community models could we offer to our wider society? Perhaps we could form some sort of Mennonite cooperative between urban home dwellers and rural landowners as well. There's all sorts of possibilities we might do by using power within the community. We at MCC are eager to partner with you and your congregations to lead the transition to renewable energy. So I say, let's get to it for the sake of our global neighbors and for God's creation. Thank you.